all of a sudden I have all these people messaging me for feet pics, and then I have like my feet show up on like celebrityfeet.com.
What? Wait a minute. There is a celebrityfeet.com. Hey, what's up, Internet? I know what you're thinking. Who is this strange, weird person on Sarah Longfield's channel? It is I, Fang von Rathenstein, from the most metal band on Earth, the Lords of the Trident, and this is part 2 of an interview series that we did with Sarah, part 2 of 57, right? So for those of you who are not in the know, I sat down with Sarah a couple of weeks ago. We had a nice chat about the music industry and stuff like that. If you want to check that out, go to youtube.com/Lords of the Trident or sign up for Sarah Longfield's Patreon, patreon.com/Sarah Longfield. You can also throw a buck at our Patreon, patreon.com/Lords of the Trident, if you want to see the entire interview. And the same thing goes with today's interview. We're going to be chatting. We'll cut this down to, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. But if you want the entire unedited, totally raw interview, get on one of the Patreons. Patreon.com/Sarah Longfield, patreon.com/Lords of the Trident. Heck, why don't you get on both? And we'll make this internet thing happen. So Sarah,
yes,
thank you so much for sitting down with me again and being a sport about this and answering all of the internet's questions.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We had a really great response to the first video. We got a lot of people asking a lot of really fantastic questions.
Yes, we did.
So, there was a couple of things you and I were talking kind of offline, and a couple of things that we wanted to maybe fill out from the last interview, and maybe things we didn't touch on from the last interview. So I guess the first thing was we talked about the new music industry, the old music industry, and the importance of labels.
Yes.
So you're currently signed to a label.
Yes.
And could you talk about the process of what it was like to be approached by the label, what the situation was where that happened, and what you were feeling at the time? What went through your mind?
So this was back in late 2017, I'm pretty sure, and I'd been approached by a couple labels at the time, not exactly that time, but over the course of, doing the thing I'm doing, and I never really felt like it fit with my brand specifically because I was so, DIY, and I liked DIY, and the labels that had approached me before the one that I'm currently on had kind of mentioned, having a creative team and stuff, and I was like, well, what's a creative team? And they're like, oh, well, we kind of give you an image and help you write your music, and I was like, okay, bye.
So somebody would try to tell you, oh, you should be more this direction or that direction.
Yeah, or change the music, because he said he doesn't know, how much of a market there was for what I was doing. And I was like, well, there's enough of a market for me to, do what I'm doing, so I don't really want to stop, and that was a couple labels that I considered signing a couple times, but so when my current one hit me up, the owner just found me on Facebook and was like, are you signed? And I was like, no. And we did a lot of negotiating. In hindsight, I wish I would have known more about exactly what to negotiate, because I was just straight up DIY, had no idea, what I was doing. But yeah, they were the first label that was willing to work with me. So to their credit, they definitely tried to, really make the deal work. So that was really cool.
And, you said that you wish you could have negotiated certain things, or you wish you could have knew to negotiate certain things. Can you touch on maybe what some of those things are, so that when other people get approached by a label, that they have this kind of in their mind of what I need to worry about?
Yeah. So it was we've run into just a few miscommunications, since I've signed, because I do so many things. I do YouTube stuff, and I tour, and I do a bunch of things in between there, and I do a lot of side projects and other genres that wouldn't sell on their label. You know what I mean? I just do my own kind of electronic stuff and indie stuff sometimes. And so we've kind of hit a gray area with a lot of that. That's okay, well, who owns the right to this, and who owns the right to this, and what if someone's profiting off of this but someone else isn't profiting off of this? So I think it's been on both sides. I don't think they really knew exactly what I was doing, and I don't think I really knew exactly what they would have control over. So it's been a little bit of can I release a YouTube single and distribute it on Spotify or something, you know what I mean? Or do I have to go through the label to do that? And I guess maybe for some people that's really obvious, but for me and the deal that we worked out specifically, it's it was more of like a gray area.
Yeah, well, it's not obvious to me.
Right.
It's like, what if Sarah Longfield, the guitarist, releases a single? Okay, that may be a little more. What if Sarah Longfield, the electronic artist, releases a single?
Exactly.
Or a single.
Yeah, and so that's where we run into issues. It's like, so what technically falls under the classification of stuff that they own and stuff that I own? And then like YouTube is a huge gray area. Because like, I was like, okay, well, obviously when you sign to a label, they get the rights to your music, and then they sell your music and profit off your music, and, there are advances and stuff in between there to kind of balance everything out, but YouTube is sort of a separate thing, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I want to keep my YouTube stuff for me, because, I need to be making money to exist if you're going to be, taking on this half of what I'm doing. And it was kind of, they're like, well, how much money are you making? And like, I'm like, well, enough to live off of, but it's not because of the singles I'm releasing, it's like Patreon and stuff. And so I think they didn't really know, and like I didn't really know. And so, yeah.
Do you think that labels nowadays are more hip to, the crowdfunding, the Patreon, the Kickstarters, the offline stuff? And do you think that their approach is that they want in on that, or that they're okay to leave certain things alone? So like, for instance, if somebody came up to them and said, you can have all my music, just don't touch my Patreon. Yeah. Do you think they would be open to that?
Well, I think so. Like the label, that's basically like what I said. I was like, okay, well, you can have my music, but then like I was like, oh my God, I don't have any source of income anymore, because I was living off my album sales for like a decent amount of time before I talked to them. And then so that's actually when I started my Patreon. I was like, yo, like your girl has got to eat. And so that was what started that. But I didn't think about it going into it, and I wish I would have like, been more, this is my plan after I give up these things. I didn't really understand the consequences of those things and like the exchanges that would be made. But I do think, there are labels that are willing to sign artists. Like if you still have a Patreon and stuff, like they might not try to like get something from that. But I know there's also a lot of 360 deals that are happening, and I'm not in a 360 deal, so good on them for, not trying to force me into that. That was like really cool.
And just for the sake of everybody watching who doesn't know what a 360 deal is, could you explain what that is?
To my knowledge, I am not like the most knowledgeable, but it's a cut of everything.
A cut of everything.
So it's like everything you're doing, they have some part of, or some ownership in, or some like financial ownership in. So it's just like everything you're doing. And I think a lot of the deals that you're going to get are that, because the music industry, like in our last video, which you should check out, is in a weird place right now. So I think everybody's kind of, all over the place with it.
Yeah. I think a lot of artists, younger artists and people who've been around for a while, a lot of artists dream of, indie artists especially, of getting signed.
Yeah.
And being signed on a label.
Right.
For someone who is, from someone who is currently on a label, could you speak to some of the advantages of being on a label and maybe some of the disadvantages of being on a label?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the biggest advantage that I've seen has been like the PR, like hands down. The PR has been awesome. They've gotten me some amazing features in like magazines and on really cool websites, like, and that really helps to build the hype behind what you're doing. You know what I mean? When you have like PR people and like a team that are reaching out to different media sources and saying like, hey, this is a thing, promote this thing, and they're working with these people that they've had relationships with for a really long time, it can really spread the word about anything you're trying to do to new markets, new audiences, and it kind of builds your resume, which is really cool. So the PR has been phenomenal, and they do have like connections for some tours and stuff, depending on the label and what they're doing, so that can really help, because it can be hard if you're trying to get on bigger tours without any representation, whether that's like a manager or a label or anything, so.
Mm-hmm. It's easier for somebody to, have, say, Century Media say, put her on this tour, versus you from your Gmail account going like, can I be on this tour, please?
Exactly. So it's like the representation can be huge with that.
All right, let's switch gears. Let's go back to diving in a little bit more on touring and the live show.
Yeah.
I know from personal experience, but also from just talking to a lot of bands, that a lot of people are really jazzed about the idea of, if I could only open for, like some young person say, if I could only open for Sarah Longfield, right? Then I'd get noticed and blah, 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 blah. And I think we've all kind of been there, where it's like, man, if I could only open for X, Y, or Z. You've been in the situation where you have been able to open on tours for bigger names, I was wondering if you could speak to some of the advantages that gets you, and maybe some of the advantages that it doesn't get you, or maybe how people think it'll get them advantages, but it doesn't actually happen that way.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So that is totally the mindset that we all go into it with. We're like, yeah, I'm going to open for this huge band, and we're going to be playing like 1,500 cap venues.
We're going to be best friends forever.
Yeah, and it's going to be sick. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm just me with my experiences, and they might be pretty different from other people's experiences, but I've found, like, I guess, so for one example, we were opening for like a bigger artist, and we had a bus share, and that was like our first bus share. And we were encouraged that, like, okay, this is a good move. Like, if you invest in this bus share, like, you'll make the money back because there's going to be this many kids there every night. And we had really good merch sales. So I'm like, okay, we'll do, even if it's people that don't know us, we'll do okay, because we have on previous tours where we were just driving, our minivan and, like, opening for a bigger acts. And, like, we lost hard on, like, a couple of them. You know what I mean? Because, like, you do have to pay for the bus. Like, I think we had saved up after like 4 or 5 different tours, like just about $16,000.
Wow.
And the bus share was like $14,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That much?
Yep. Well, yeah, we were overseas too. So, but
overseas. Oh my god.
But it's still expensive even in the States to like share a bus. So it's like, but we were like, okay, you know what? Like, it'll probably be worth it. Like, if our merch sales are anything like they were on the last tour, we will be fine. And then, like, we get on the tour, and, like, the draw is not what they said it was going to be, or, like, and there's all these different problems. So it's, like, when you do those kind of tours, there's way more risk. And even, like, the Winter Sun tour, like, that was incredible, and there was a huge audience, but it was, like, like, the merch restrictions, and, like, the merch cuts, and then, like, a bunch of different logistic issues and stuff kind of made it a lot more difficult than it could have been, in those situations. So I think big tours are great, but they're also risky, and they can be an investment, especially if you have to bus share. And, like, we've never bought on or anything, and I think buy-ons can be good in some situations, depending on who you are, if you have the means. We've never had the means. So, that's a no question. But I think they can be good. I just think they're risky. So it's like if you're a smaller band and you're looking to buy on to a bigger tour, or to try to get on a bigger tour, or you're just about there and you want to open for bigger bands, like, make sure it's the right fit. Make sure if you're investing money in it that 100,000% there are going to be people there, a lot of people there. And, like, you know what I mean? Because it's just a huge risk, and that can really, like screw a band up. You know what I mean? If you lose that much money and, you all work, like, food service jobs, that could be tough. So I personally like smaller tours better.
Yeah.
I'm excited because the next tour we're doing is just going to be like low key and chill and smaller. So
That's
they're more
excellent.
fun. You get to hang like with your fans and stuff, and they're just friends.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people just sort of casually, fans and stuff, and a lot of smaller bands in the coming up in the industry don't realize that a lot of the people that you see on tour have actually paid money to be on that tour.
Yeah, dude.
Like, we got approached to open for someone, and they wanted like $600 a night.
Yeah.
And we didn't get we didn't get on the bus, and we didn't get any. We still had to pay for our
for your own travel,
and
you're not even making anything other than your merch money, which is just recouping the cost and paying that amount every night.
And the question in my mind was, oh my God, are there going to be merch cuts? Are there going to be like, how can we make $600 if they're taking 20% every single night?
Exactly.
And I'm sure you've run into that time and time and time again.
Yeah.
So we really struggled with that, saying, is this going to be a good move? We're going to get in front of a lot of people, but financially we might take a big hit. So what I hear you saying is that sometimes buy-ons can be advantageous as long as you know exactly what you're getting.
Yes.
And you go in with that sort of an expectation.
And if you're rich. I actually know I know a lot of people in this industry that have a lot of money and have like bought their way to like big fame. Like, they literally bought on tour after tour after tour after tour until it worked. So like, clearly there is some like merit to doing that, because it's sort of like a fake it till you make it kind of thing. But also, a lot of people aren't rich, and there's sort of the illusion that like you can just get on these tours, and it's like, like, I've even been offered a tour that a band, like, bought out from us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we were going to get the tour, and then this other band, like, paid to have that spot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they kind of took your spot, but just by money alone. Yeah, I remember watching. I don't think it was maybe it was a TED talk, but it was the violinist from Ne Obliviscaris.
Yeah, Tim.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
toured with
Tim. Yeah, he was talking about how they had all maxed out all of their personal credit cards buying onto
Yeah.
tours, and that they were like, swimming in debt until the whole Patreon thing came along. So that's really interesting.
And that is a way to do it. You know what I mean? If you're willing to gamble like that, and it can really pay off. Like a big gamble can have a big payoff. And Tim is a really smart guy. Like I talked with him a decent amount about like my gripes. I'm just like, this sucks. Like this is bad, and I don't know why this is like this. And he's very like optimistic about it. Like he understands the perspective, but he was also very much like, you have to do this, and you have to be really on top of this, and like. He talked about his Patreon and how huge that was. And it worked out for them. Like, they're killing it.
Yeah.
They're doing really, really well. Mm-hmm. So, there is another gray area with it.
Right. This current tour that you're going on right now is a U.S. tour. But I know, and you've spoken earlier, that you've toured internationally before.
Yes.
And I'm about to hit our first international European tour. I'm super excited.
What?
Here's what I want to know, Sarah Longfield. I want your international tour tips.
Well, my first...
Hit me with it.
Yeah, my first one, and this might not apply to you because you already have your thing set up, but if you doubt it at all, or if you have any questions about it, if you're like, that doesn't look like quite right, like, don't do it. Don't do it. If you have a bad gut feeling about that tour, don't do it, because you will regret it, and it is expensive to tour overseas because you have to hire a driver, you have to hire some kind of transportation, and if it's not like a bus share, it's still going to be expensive because you're getting a van, and so you want to make sure, like, you have to just basically organize all these things online and then just show up and hope everything works. So if you have a doubt in your mind about that international tour, don't risk it. You will be thousands of dollars in debt if you do risk it and it goes wrong. So that's tip number one. Okay. And tip number two is shower as often as you can when you get the opportunity. Because it's like surprisingly more difficult to find like showers and stuff over there. Like venues have more showers than they do over here.
Yeah.
But like there's always like 15 people that need to shower, so you might not get the opportunity. And like when we were over there, like we weren't really like, crashing with people as much, and on the bus there's no shower. And so it was like, in the States, like I know everywhere you can shower because everything is the same in the States. Like there's always a gas station, there's always truck stop showers. I know people all over the country that I can be like, yo, what's up? Can I like sleep in your basement? You know what I mean? But in Europe, like you don't have those things, and there's no Walgreens. Like, so it's like basic things that you don't know you need. Like if you're sick and you're like, oh, I need medicine. Like you're like, where do I get medicine in Italy? Like you don't think about it until you're there, and you're like, wow. So yeah, showers, and then identifying medicine or bringing medicine over with you before you go, and then don't do it if it doesn't feel right.
That's very interesting because we have a rule in our band that on tour, when a shower is offered, you take the shower.
Always.
And it doesn't matter if you just showered 5 minutes ago.
You always shower.
If they say you want to shower, you don't say I just showered. You say, yeah, I'll take another shower.
You're ready.
All right, good.
You're set.
I'm feeling good about this now. I'm ready to take on Europe.
Yep. No, but Europe is sick. It's like the food is amazing, and the hospitality is amazing. Like the promoters are super friendly and super nice, and all the sound people are amazing, and the shopping is like prime. So.
Well, I'm excited. I'm really excited.
That's awesome.
So I think if a band has been around, as long as we have, as long as you've been touring with bands, there's going to be situations where there's going to be some turnover.
Yep.
In terms of band members, and whether it's somebody not liking the style or just life getting in the way.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yep.
So I'm wondering what your process is for like finding and auditioning a new member of your band, and for the people out there who might be going through something similar with their band, if you could offer any tips for like the audition process.
Okay, so if you're touring, I think it's different than if you're like a station like playing locally, regionally band. So for touring, my like number one criteria is like, how chill are you? Like, I don't care if there's someone that can play better than you. I don't care if there's someone that's like faster or like, more exact with their things. Like my number one thing is like, can you hang? Like, are you chill? Do you argue all the time? Like, so when I'm like, switching through people or trying to find people that really fit with what I'm trying to do, I think I'm like, who do I know that's really chill? And then like my drummer right now, Cameron, he's awesome. I met him in Texas like 4 years ago on a Drusif Stalin tour. And I think like, I don't know, I got a good vibe. I was like, yeah, this kid's cool. He was drumming in this math rock band. And then like, I needed someone else to fill this hotel at NAMM, so I hit him up. I was like, yo, if I get you a NAMM pass, like, will you throw down like a couple $100 for this hotel with me? And so he was really chill at NAMM, and like, you can usually get a good like reading about someone at the NAMM show, like how chill they are. And so like, I didn't talk to him for 2 years, and then I just like shot him an Instagram message, and I was like, yo, you want to go on tour?
So I guess it goes to show people out there watching, like, you never know when those connections that you make are gonna like 2 years later throw you an Instagram message.
Dude, totally. Like, I do it with people, and it's happened to me. Like, you meet people in the weirdest places doing the weirdest things, and if you're just nice and you're chill, you're like automatically considered in like everybody's brain as like a potential person to tour with. And like, it's a small world. Like,
oh yeah,
it really is. So like, you know, once you meet those people and kind of get intertwined with it, like everybody just asks everybody. We all become friends, and I'm like, yo, I need a bass player. Like, Killian, do you want to do this thing? Or like, Dave, do you want to do this? Like, you know, so then everybody recommends each other. So if you're really nice and chill to the right person, like you can get touring gigs. You know what I mean?
That's really cool.
Not that my touring gigs are like anything to brag about.
Well, but some people
like,
just
you want to live in
be on the road,
a minivan for a while. Like,
a lot of people I know would say yes to that for sure.
True.
All right, so the last video we put up on our YouTube channel, Lords of the Trident YouTube channel. If you haven't seen that yet, go to youtube.com/Lords of the Trident. Look for Sarah Longfield versus the music industry. It's a great, wonderful talk we had.
Yes.
And we had a lot of questions.
Yeah, we did.
We had a lot of people chiming in, and so I wrote down a few of them from the comments section. And if you out there have any questions that you want to ask us, we will try to get to them on the comment section. And who knows, maybe in part 3 of 57, we'll get to all of your questions. So, you know, this first one's a really kind of a hard question, kind of tough to answer. Neko Kitty writes, show feet.
Show feet. Ooh, yes, tough question. I'm wearing socks today on purpose.
I'm just joking about that. Like, what is the deal with the whole foot thing?
Oh, I don't know. So I made one video like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and you can see my feet in it because I'm like laying down or whatever. Because I was stoked because I built this bed for my van that I lived in for a while.
I think I saw the thumbnail of that. It was you just kind of like in the front. You were just talking to the camera, and you kind of had like your feet up in the air because you were laying down in a van.
Yep. And I was like really proud of my van. So like totally innocently, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this video in my van that I like made a home out of. And then like, you know, all of a sudden, I have all these people messaging me for feet pics, and then I have like my feet show up on like celebrityfeet.com.
What? Wait a minute. There is a celebrityfeet.com.
There was last time I checked. Someone sent me a link to it, and I was like, are you kidding me? So yeah, I don't know. And then like,
I think the real question everybody's wondering is, what is your ranking on celebrityfeet.com?
I'm sure it's not very high.
Okay, sorry.
My true bragging right here. I'm on celebrityfeet.com.
Yeah. I'm not on celebrityfeet.com.
I might not be anymore, so I don't want to just be like talking out of my ass. Okay. But last time I checked, my feet were online. People were
loving it.
Were looking at my feet. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I think there's just a lot of people with foot fetishes, and maybe in metal. Maybe there's like some weird metal foot fetish like thing. I've also had people that don't have foot fetishes like be like, I really like your feet. And I'm like, what? So I have just magic feet.
I guess that is really strange. Okay, let's get to the actual questions. I'm sorry, I just had to throw that at you because
that's good to address.
I saw a bunch of people talking about feet. I'm like, what is with this?
Well, now it's like an ongoing joke. Like, okay. So now it's like it's spiraled into this like eternal foot joke. Which
it turned into like the put shoe on head sort of thing, right? Yeah. Okay, so. Graham Anderson, last time we talked a lot about, you know, the gripes of the current state of the music industry.
Yes.
Graham Anderson writes, what reasonable / small steps would improve the lives of touring musicians?
Ooh, like you mean from like an external thing?
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
And I mean,
that's a great question. That's a tough question.
It could be anything. It's like maybe what could fans do? What could the label do? What could the industry at large do? What could venues do? You know, to improve the lives.
No more merch cuts. No,
yeah.
I mean, number one. But no, number two, like, you know, I know there's so many fans out there that, like, want to help and want to improve that thing. And I think, honestly, the best thing you can do for a band is put them up when they're on tour. I think that's, like, people that, like, put you up and that, like, bring you things like butt wipes and food. You know what I mean? Like, those are my favorite people. I've had people there was this one tour that, like, I was like, yo, bring me candy. Like, I'm broke and I need sugar. And I had people bringing candy to every single show.
Wow.
Which was so sick. Like, they would just leave bags of candy by the minivan. So If you're still watching this, thank you.
It was Halloween every night on that
Yeah,
tour.
we never forget. We're always like, that's the best thing ever. That's the best. That's the best.
I think, for us, we still have like a mental listing of like some of like the top 5 places that we've ever
that you've
stayed.
ever been. Yep.
Yeah.
The nicest people.
Oh yeah. Our brothers in Mega Colossus out of North Carolina, Steven, the guitarist, has like a literal, he lives in a literal mansion. And we call it the Party Mansion.
Yes!
And we go there, and it doesn't matter where we're playing in North Carolina, we will
always
go
make a
back to
trip.
Raleigh
Yep.
to stay there. Like we'll drive, one night we drove like 3.5 hours, through the night. We got there at 5 a.m. It's because like, we gotta stay at the Party Mansion. It was,
That's the best. And it's like those times are like what make touring awesome, because you're hanging with people that love what you do and they want to hang with you and party and eat and drink and like, and especially like when you're at a mansion with the entire tour package or your band. Like we've been in similar situations where I'm just like, this is so surreal. Like, whoa, it's crazy.
All right, so let's move on to another question. So Nightmare Kiss had a comment about artist development.
Yeah.
The gist of it was, do you think labels are actually spending the time nowadays to do proper artist development, or do you think most labels are just looking for like a quick hit and moving on?
Oh, I think it's both. I think they're being forced to look more at the artist as like a whole and look into developing them. But I also think, because like I said, as we talked about, the industry is changing so rapidly, I don't think they have a hold of how to do that yet. I don't think anyone really has a hold of like how to develop an artist, because there's so many different avenues that you can take. And I even think like with the label that I'm on, like, we've been struggling, like, I don't think they really know what to do with me, and I don't think I know really what to do with me. So it's like, I think with the right communication and the right label and the right market and the right PR, like, you guys, it can be a really great relationship. I just think artists need to be really like particular about who they decide to work with, and I think labels need to be really picky about who they want to be representing their brand. So I think, it's going to be a learning thing on both sides for a while still, because nothing's really like settled. Everything is still changing super rapidly. So
Okay, another comment. Slaves Forging writes, kind of made me laugh when I think of all the people championing how much money you can make off of a merch table. I've played in bands before, but have never really bothered investing in merch. Who wants to buy the merch of a band they'd never heard of? Never made sense to me. I don't know. Seems like the merch is something that you do once you have a following, not really while trying to build one necessarily.
No.
What is your reaction to that?
No. You have to have merch. Merch will save you. I've played shows to people that had no idea who I was and made like decent money. They've been like, oh, that's sick. And like, so many people that have no idea who you are will buy your merch. Just on like when I go to shows, if I don't know one of the artists and they kill it, like I'm like, okay, give me 2 t-shirts, give me the vinyl, give me the CD, give me your sticker, like give me everything. Like, I can't tell you how many metal shows, especially like underground metal shows. So if you're in an underground metal band, like, no, do not have merch just because you're like super underground and you think no one would buy it. Like, no, my favorite shows to go to are underground metal shows, like grindcore shows and stuff. And I love buying merch at those shows because I know the bands really need it, and I love the weird like DIY stuff that they come up with, So it's totally worth it, and you will make money. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna bank that money in a savings account so that one day you'll have a lot of money from playing a lot of local shows, and then you can invest in things like a van so you don't have to take your shitty minivan. And like, more merch that's better, and like, getting all these things together. So that's super important. No.
I think a lot of people too have the false idea that they need that merch has to be expensive and that they have to have a lot of it in order to actually do anything. Totally
false. Like for the first 6 months of playing Fine Constant shows, like we printed our own shirts. I know you've printed your own shirts too, because I tried to bargain one with bracelets and alcohol.
Yep. Still to this day, that was one of my favorite moments because you came up and you're like, it's pay what you want, right? And I'm like, yep. And you're like, whoop, takes a bead bracelet off. And I just sat there like, she's not right. Or she's not wrong. She's not wrong. Clearly.
Man. I thought they were great, and I was a little drunk.
And it was amazing. And it was
I was 21, okay? That's the excuse for my
it was absolutely
my
amazing.
Drunkenness.
It was fantastic.
But don't pay with bracelets. Don't be me.
I mean, unless people say you can, then because... hot tip to anybody out there: if you want a Lords of the Trident CD and you want to pay with a bead bracelet, I'll take bead bracelets. You know, I got a collection now, so, you know.
But yeah, like, so back on the thing quick, print your own merch. Like, I wanted to do it. I thought the process was cool. I got the screen, I got the ink. I went and bought, like, those Hanes packets of, like, 5 shirts at Walmart on sale. And I just bought, like, 50 of them. Mm-hmm. You know, I saved up. I was, like, working some job. And, like, we just sat in Steve's basement and, like, printed them for hours and hours and hours. And I don't know if I would do it again. But it was fun, and I learned, and we made money on it. We made enough money to order our shirts next time. So. Yeah.
And if you are not sure where to start, go to youtube.com/Lords of the Trident, and if you look under the Words of Fang section, which is what this series is about, or this series is called, the first 2 videos are full, like 30-minute each walkthroughs on all the things you need to do to print your own shirts on the cheap.
Do that.
So go do it. We have at the current moment we've got something like 23 different shirt designs that we've come out with, like over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And yeah, it's awesome. It's so much fun.
It is really fun to do. You're like blasting music and printing shirts, and you're like, this is awesome.
And you can tell your fans, like, yeah, I made that by hand.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, what?
And it's so much cooler to get a thing that you know that they just like labored over, you know?
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, next question. Sam Blitz writes, how do you guys feel about being such a big part of a person's life? While I know that celebrity musicians I love are just doing a job, there's something to be said that what I do for a living, a physics graduate student, and what semi-successful musicians do for a living is different. In particular, I do my work, my advisor sees it, and that's about it. If he says I did a great job, excellent, but nobody really cares. On the other hand, if you guys do a great job, many people notice and you become a part of their lives. For example, I'm a huge fan of Chris Bose of Ailstorm Gloryhammer fame, and while he's just a silly dude, there is something enticing about getting a chance to know him as a human being rather than a musician. I imagine it's kind of hard to become friends with someone who only originally knew you from your music, right? Like if I met Sarah at a bar and I didn't know your work, sure, we could become buddies, but if I reach out and say, hey, I love your music, want to grab a drink, there's some sort of power imbalance, right? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I know I kind of touched on it in more of a negative light because there are negative consequences to, you know, people that are viewing your work knowing you personally. Mm-hmm. But it is a positive thing too. Like, I have lots of people that are like, hey, like, you know, I have seen your videos and like, you know, you want to like hang out or like jam. I can't jam, so I always say no, I can't jam because I suck at it. But like if they want to hang or like talk or grab drinks or anything, like I'm always cool with that because like I think it's so cool that there is, you know, a job, I guess, technically, or like a medium nowadays where you can put something out into the world and like connect with people just by doing that. I think, like I said, I think that's kind of inherent in art. Like our desire is to communicate in some way. We're just, you know, screaming into the ether via painting or music or whatever and like reaching out for something, some kind of interaction, you know, or we wouldn't put it out at all, you know. So I think that's important. It's an important thing to have, and it's an important relationship to be able to balance. Like I said, there are negatives to it, but there's also an overwhelming majority that are, you know, really positive, and it's really good. And I've met some of the best people I know because they've come up to me and been like, hey, I really like your videos. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, I guess I just really like you as a person. Like, let's be friends. You know what I mean? So I think that's important to have in like a fan base too, because the people that you meet and form those bonds with like stick. You know, they continue to support you and promote what you're doing, and that like blows my mind. Like that, I can't even like comprehend that that's a thing that happens. So, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I also think too, you never know who someone's going to be in 5 years.
Oh, totally.
You know,
totally.
Like there might be a perceived power imbalance right now.
Yep.
Where this person is, you know, whoa, and you're like, I just want to meet you. But in 5 years, this guy might be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You never know.
Yep.
You know, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like oftentimes, like, you know, there can be some sort of collaboration or interaction. Like I meet a lot of people that are trying to do YouTube or want to do YouTube, and like we talk about that, and like. Yeah.
He looked into the camera knowingly.
Yeah. Well, like what we're doing right now, you know what I mean? And like I said, not that there's any weird dynamic here. You're doing way more than I'm doing for my YouTube right now, so yo. And way more for my YouTube than I'm doing for my YouTube right now.
Yo, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, baby. Let's get 1,000 likes on this. Let's get 10,000 likes on this.
Woo. So yeah, like, you know, it's always good to meet people that are like-minded and that are into it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Geez, Sarah, we talked about, we hit all the comment section.
Yeah.
Everybody's questions have been answered. They saw feet. It was great.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts to leave, for people that want to hear more? Where should they find you? Tell us a little bit about the tour that you're going on right now. All that sort of fun stuff. Give us all the links.
Yeah, all the things. Okay, so Instagram is just my name, Sarah Longfield. YouTube is just my name, Sarah Longfield. Facebook is just my name, Sarah Longfield.
That's easy.
Yep. And
Patreon is just your name.
Sarah Longfield. Patreon.com/Sarah Longfield. Yeah, I wish I would have given myself a different last name before I did this.
Yeah.
I'm always like, Longfield? That's what I let myself be, is just my name, but well, I don't know, whatever. So
The next album could be Short Mountain.
yes. Hey, at least it sets it up for good, bad jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then, we're going on tour with Felix Martin pretty much all of May. So if you haven't seen my Instagram posts or my Facebook ads or anything like that, be sure to check it out. I'll post the tickets in the description below, where you can just click on the link and buy the tickets. So yeah, I think that's a cool thing that happens. Yeah, check out Ty's Patreon, and you are just patreon.com/Lords of the Trident.
/Lords of the Trident. Yep, that is
Sick.
us, the most metal band on earth. And if you like this, and I think if you've taken nothing else away from these two interviews, it's that if you appreciate what Sarah's doing, if you appreciate what we're doing, nothing helps us more than you jumping onto our Patreon, even at $1 a month. Right?
Yes.
Just jump on, throw $1 at us. You won't miss that $1, trust me. But it is the world for us, because it allows us to do things with that money, to make more things like this, and to make more art, more music, to create more. It's gigantic for us.
And beyond that, it's like, for me, it's like even less the money and more like, it's great to be able to pay my rent and eat. That's sick. But it's like someone saying, hey, I think the thing that you do is so cool. Here's money. And you're
Right.
like, what? Like, it's like the best compliment you can give someone is like buying their art or supporting them financially, because money is such like a valuable thing in today's society. So it really speaks to how much you care about the artist and what they're doing. So for my Patreon subscribers, I know I've disappeared this winter, but I really appreciate it. You have saved my butt a lot.
And Michi says, go to the Patreon, right, Michi? Right. Patreon.com/Sarah Longfield. Patreon.com/Lords of the Trident. Sarah, thanks again for sitting down with me, for your wisdom, for your knowledge, for all your fun times.
We've been spitballing ideas about how to navigate this, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button. We will see you next time.
Bye.